afternoon. I'm Jennifer Levine-Bruno, Group Publishing Director of the Luxury and Design Collection. And on behalf of everyone at Hearst and the Luxury and Design Collection, we are delighted to be hosting this next hour as part of LCDQ Strong. Interestingly enough, for those of you who don't know, the first ever Legends of La Cienega was in fact created and hosted exclusively by the La Cienega Design Quarter and Elle Decor back in May 2009. We knew then what we know now, which is that great designers live forever. Their style keeps making an impact for years and decades to follow. That much was very clear in Los Angeles 11 years ago, and it still holds true today. So I've had to prepare some remarks for a few different events or Zoom events that have taken place over the course of these last few days within our group. And as I've been thinking through it all, I couldn't help but think that there is so much sameness right now, too much. And what we're all really proud of in this group is that each of our editors-in-chief truly takes the time to take a step back and to ask themselves, how am I different? And the answer to this becomes so brilliantly apparent in each of our print issues and all of the content we're putting out on our websites and across our social media platforms. So, you know, this design community is an extraordinary network of artisans and creative talents and business people who work in an ecosystem to bring beauty and function to our environments. We're absolutely seeing the strength and depth of this community during this pandemic, and our media brands stand at the nexus of this community. We're so proud of the role we play in bringing the many parts of this world together, and we know our work is more important than ever. And speaking of roles we're proud of, some of you are aware of one of the great developments from our group that we launched early on during our work from home days, which is our own Luxury and Design Collection COVID-19 Relief Initiative. It's called Design Unites, and it's benefiting Habitat for Humanity in New York City. If you haven't already, I urge you to check it out at #DesignUnites and also the live auction on Charity Buzz. The three editors on this panel and their editorial teams have been supporting this campaign on our websites and across all our social handles. And I'm especially grateful to so many of our advertising partners and industry friends who have provided and bid on these auction lots. And I'm really happy to share that as of today, we have raised nearly $65,000 for Habitat New York City, and we're gonna keep on going. So I think you'll really enjoy the energy and the insights from the three editors you're about to hear from. As someone who spends many hours a week engaging with each of them, I can truly say that these editors celebrate design in all of its forms. We respect and we champion the many magic makers tuning in today, those of you who create and who innovate and problem solve day in and day out. All of us are here to support you and to support this great industry. So to Tamar, I congratulate you and your team for today's impressive undertaking and production. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce to you someone who I've known and admired for many years, David Mehta. David's work has appeared in all three of the magazines represented here, not only as a decorator, but as a writer and editor. And he is also a very trusted advisor. David's keen eye and his knowledge of design and architectural history is always uncompromised. His enthusiasm for this industry is so hugely infectious for those who know him. And he is a cherished member of our Hearst Design family. So with that, I present to you, David Mehta.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I have to confess to being very intimidated because, as Jennifer pointed out, I have at one time or another worked for all three of these illustrious editors who we're going to be talking to and hearing from. And when they're your bosses and they're not looking at you, you can sort of keep your terror to yourself. But on live television or whatever this is that we're doing, Zoom, it's harder to disguise it when you get the shakes. But this is a way of it's a put up, not a put down. And my day of being the Anderson Cooper of design, I'm going to enjoy it. God damn it if it's the last thing I do. So I'm going to introduce you to some really terrific personalities and great executives who are shaping the conversation about design in America today as much as anyone. Joanna Saltz is the editor-in-chief of House Beautiful. She is very friendly, very accessible, and very outspoken. Stellene Volandes is on many lips these days because she's just been made editorial director of Elle Decor, and you know her well as editor-in-chief of Town and Country for the last many years. But she's going to bring a lot of new ideas and great taste and knowledge to Elle Decor now, starting I think 10 days ago or something. It's a very recent development. And then lastly, Steelmark, who is the editor-in-chief of Veranda. She's joining us from home. We're all home except me. I'm in an office. But that's one of the big subjects of today. So it's actually an advantage that we're all at home, because home has never been more important, as one of you pointed out recently in a conversation. I'm going to start by directing a few questions to one of you specifically, because I know this very well, this Zoom syndrome of people all starting to talk at the same time. But then it'll get kicked around, and I encourage it to turn into a conversation. Storytelling is a thing that you all do. Editor-in-chief is a very interesting job, because it isn't one job. It's, as Mario Buotta once said about decorating, you have to be a psychiatrist to have the relationship with the client, you have to be an artist to do the design, and you have to be a lawyer to get paid. And editor-in-chief may have several more bullet points than that underneath it. But still, storytelling is always an important part of your job. How has the current environment changed the way you go about that? And I would say specifically, looking towards the next 6 months, the second half of this year, because it's always, magazines are sort of locked and loaded 2 to 3 months in advance. So some of the storytelling that you're showing now is probably pre-COVID, but how is it changing for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, because I think that, to your point, storytelling is actually more important now than ever. And frankly, as is often the case in challenging times, we have a great opportunity to leverage our authority as storytellers. One specific, very kind of print magazine relevant example is that, we're not, to your point, up until about now, we had content in the can. We are shooting, but we're shooting on a much reduced and slower schedule. So we're having to choose very carefully what we actually shoot and what we use pickup imagery for, and that sort of thing. And so we feel like, where in the past we would have just defaulted to creating these beautiful product vignette shots, now we have an opportunity to maybe give those new products, more context. And that's something that we really excel in. So we're showing new product, but we're, perhaps including an illustration, a little bit more text, some more in-depth interviews, some more, for us, historical information about where these ideas and trends have come from. And I think, again, it's just an opportunity for us to leverage our greatest skill, which is as storytellers. So I actually see a lot of opportunity for that.
I actually think what's interesting about the question is that storytelling, even during this time, how we approach it has changed, because this whole time that we've been home has had its own phases. Yeah. And when we first all were thrust into this situation, I think there was panic, and we were just telling all the stories,
whatever story
we could think of to tell. We felt this urge to be entertainers. We felt an urge to, we didn't know what was going to happen to the print. So we also thought, let's sort of just really amp up everything. I think now we're in a different phase. I think the story, I think of it like, at the beginning, everyone was Tiger King, right? It was like chaos and just like everything. Now we've
Are you talking specifically about live IG stories?
I am.
Just throw it at the wall.
In a way, but I think also now we know that our print magazines are still being published. So we have the opportunity to tell those stories still. Our websites, our traffic is up more than ever. So we know that content is being received and it's desired. So So now I think we're shifting towards that sort of daily or hourly storytelling that we do on social media is shifting back a little bit more to a place where we're much more directed and strategic. And it's sort of like we're in the unorthodox.
Because you're calmer.
We're calmer, and we also know what we're dealing with.
And I want to ask you about, sorry to interrupt you. See, I'm doing the Zoom thing that I dreaded. I'm doing it myself.
I love that.
I want to ask you about the role of an archive in the life of a magazine now. I know Town and Country has an incredible archive, and it's the oldest of the three magazines we're talking about today. Do you find you've referred back to that archive in response to not being able to do shoots that you would
Well, I
otherwise?
will tell you that what's amazing about having an archive is looking at how all our magazines have responded to crises in the past. So certainly with Town and Country, I can go back to 1918 and look at how it dealt with the Spanish flu. But Elle Decor also, you have a 3-decade history. So you can look back and see, after 9/11, how did it respond? After the 2008 recession, how did it respond? I think history is a guide for all of us. And I think that history also is so powerful as far as storytelling because it gives us a path to how we got through it. And, I love reading everything about New York history because I am so invested in the future of this city, and to read about how it got through 1918, how it got through the wars, how it got through 9/11 and came back stronger than ever. There's comfort there, and there's comfort in that for our readers, for our clients, for everyone watching.
What was a Town and Country cover during 1918, during the
pandemic? We're running one in the next issue actually, and there were a lot of it was all illustration, and it was an illustration of a child bored at home.
Oh my gosh.
So,
oh my gosh.
Boy, did they know.
Sorry?
I said, boy, did they know about that.
Boy,
No
did they
Netflix, no, video games. That was the real hard time.
It's a
YouTube.
Or YouTube. It's a child on a sofa with like a mandolin next to her.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my God.
Goodness.
Joanna Saltz, talk to us.
Hi.
Hi.
I just well, I can't top that. Following Celine, I'm quickly finding following Celine is very challenging. So that's a good anecdote. I know. I think that the thing that I'm realizing, and I don't know if this is me like projecting on my audience or what, but I think the thing that I'm reacting to when it comes to sort of the content that we're creating is just the fact that like time is sort of passing us by, right? That I think in a lot of ways, and sort of to Celine's point of us having gone through multiple phases. I mean, we've really, we've been home for 3 months now, or 2 months. I mean, what is time really is what is it? What even is it in this world? But the fact that all of this stuff is passing us by, and kids graduating high school, not getting to do all of these fun things and parties and events that we had, and being at LCDQ, things that we should have been doing. And I think that that's forcing our audience in particular, but I'm sure it's similar to the other brands here, to realize, like, take life by the horns and make the changes that you feel like you need to make. And so for us, from a storytelling perspective, I've really sort of tried to force the tactic of, not just showing the beautiful things, as House Beautiful has always done, but also really helping people get that, like help them make those dreams a reality. On housebeautiful.com, we've been doing a lot of content on real estate, because we just also think not only from the design perspective, but that people are going to want to move, to change, to look at what's around them and understand, is this right for us? This is not right for us. Whatever it is, take the leap. But really it has come down to service. It really has been, we are in a time now where people need help, and help at every level. And, how can House Beautiful sort of take them into that next phase? I mean, I think there is going to be like a pre-pandemic and post-pandemic universe, and the two are going to be extremely different.
So do you have a plan for that, say, beginning in some issue in the fall? How you would address that personally?
I mean, you'll even see, like, because we were in the midst of this with our summer issue, which actually just hit newsstands today. So you're going to see a lot more service infused. And frankly, I mean, and I know Steele's amazing issue just came out not that long ago, and a true celebration of loving your space and, you know, feeling like you're taken away, even though you can't leave your walls. And so we're certainly playing that same tune where, you know, just understanding what are the things that you can do in your home that can change your mood, that can make you feel more calm, that can make you feel more rejuvenated. You know, what are those things that can make you feel like you're on vacation, even though you can't fly anywhere right now? And so I think it's been, you know, our team's true sort of force of like making all of our content be not just inspirational, because that is still so important in this industry. We still need inspiration. And now that we can't go anywhere, it's even more critical that our brands offer that inspiration. But
it
also
also
action.
must involve a tightrope walk between aspirational stuff, because you have to be inspirational, you have to be extravagant, you have to be a little unrealistic. You know, the magazine that you're making is about dreaming, not just, you know, cleaning kitchens or something. And then at the same time, in these times,
like, are you judging me, David? Is that what this is?
I am no way.
No, never.
No, but I'm saying
behind this camera.
I feel for you, because you have to keep it real enough that people aren't annoyed to be told that they should go to this hotel in Italy that's so fabulous and they can't go there, you know, or they should renovate their house, but they can't get a contractor to come in the building.
But at the same time, it's important to bring the world. I mean, I think it's important for us to bring what they can't see and what they can't have to them in a way that may be more relevant now than even before.
Well, and I think also we all have the opportunity right now, because your home has to be all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the idea of service, your house is at your service more than it ever has been before, you know, and it is now your favorite restaurant. It is your movie theater. It is your hotel. You know, your backyard pool is now the Hotel du Cap, you know, so what are you doing in your space, and what can we tell you to do?
For sure.
To be there. I just
you now can try and mimic, but it also is about how to bring in things that create a fantasy and that make your home all things it can be, because right now it has to be.
I think too, to that point, you know, and we've always sort of said it in the context of our whole home initiative that we create every fall, but that also, you know, taking care of your home is sort of the like highest echelon of self-care, right? Like we invest in our haircuts and we invest in our skincare routines and our gyms and all of those things. But a lot of times we live with mediocrity in our space. And this is 100%. The thing that's physically cradling us every single day of our lives. And so how are we not just making them work harder for us, but also, you know, make us feel like really truly envelop us and make us feel something
safe, comfortable, and happy. I mean, I think
totally
relaxed.
Right. And now we are in them more than ever. So you are so much more aware of how you feel in your home or your apartment. And I think that as soon as we can, we are going to make sure that whatever is missing, whether it's in how it makes us feel or the appliances we don't have or the beautiful linens we need to bring in, I think as soon as we can, there is going to be this just surge of renovation, redecoration, because you realize how much your surroundings impact you. They impact how you work. They impact how you think. I mean, the power of space has never been more clear.
At the risk of being a little annoying, like, you know, I alluded to with the Marie Antoinette problem, it's going to also make a lot of people very interested in having second homes that didn't have them before.
Yes,
it's already done that. It's already done that. If you're in a position financially to act on that. You might not have thought of that as a priority before March, but I know many, many people who do feel that way now.
Or first homes. First homes. I feel like I know people who are living in apartments in Brooklyn and Manhattan who are like, let's go, let's buy a house. Finally, let's bite the bullet and do it. Like, we've got, time is passing us by. This is what I was saying. Like, let's just go and buy the house we've always wanted to buy. I mean, I do feel like that's really happening.
Right. It's never seemed like more of an investment.
Totally. I do want to say, though, to that point, and I'm just bringing up the quote because I want to make sure I quote it like perfectly. Hadley Keller, who's our senior editor at House Beautiful, had done an interview sort of talking about design in this time, and she spoke to a designer named Adam Rolston. He's a partner at INC, and what he said that really struck me. Oh wait, did I lose you? Hold on, sorry, my computer froze. Oh, there we are. Okay. Technology. So what he said that really spoke to me was, he said, I think it's a critical time to be a designer. We're going to help make the physical world an easier and better place to be. And in a way, when this is over, frankly, designers will sort of be the frontline workers of that recovery. And I think that that's an extraordinary statement, but also a truth, that we really are, all of us here, and I imagine the audience that's watching us are going to be sort of charged with the weight of having to help this entire community of global citizens sort of move forward into the next stage.
There's a phrase that we have been tossing around that sort of, it's our responsibility, and frankly, to Joe's point, the responsibility of the audience probably who's here today, to help people figure out how they want to live. It's not just home, apartment, second home, country, city. How do you want to live? And the design community, in a way, I think has a greater responsibility and is at the forefront of that in a way that perhaps they never have been or haven't been in a long time. And I think that's really exciting. And again, I think it's just a huge opportunity to leverage that great authority that the design community has.
So this is all very optimistic and encouraging. I feel better myself hearing you talk about this. But a lot of what we're experiencing is also about real pain, especially when you think of the economic pain that small businesses, merchants of antiques, and people who can't deliver associated with our industry are going through. I hear about that, and I find the coverage actually has been quite definitive in the business of home about that since this started. But I want to ask each of you personally, what's the most difficult experience, COVID-specific experience to running, your magazine that you've actually had to manage? We'll start with Stellene.
Okay. I will tell you that not being on the 27th floor of Hearst Tower is an enormous loss for me. We talk a lot about how in certain movies or in certain novels, the house is a character. It has such a powerful pull on how people in the novel or the movie behave. And the 27th floor for Elle Decor and for Town and Country, they share that space. And that floor is as much a piece of content in every issue those magazines create as anything. It's a floor where like there's Greek food being served all the time, and there's a Broadway actor coming in to borrow a pin for the Tonys and to ask Ingrid and Parker how to decorate his apartment. And it's a constant flow of ideas, and there's a sort of traffic of energy and inspiration on that floor that I really miss. And we have tried very hard to recreate it over this, but I think it only underscores really what I said before, that the power of space, of where you create, is incredibly important to what you create. And I'm adjusting, and I know I have to adjust, but I do think we all realize how, the walls we create in are powerful. So And the theater. I mean,
I know that about you. Yes. Celine is a huge supporter of the New York Theater.
Yeah.
I think they maybe have it worse than anybody. I mean, when you think about the impact on Broadway productions, I just can't believe it. But there isn't. You probably know a lot about that since you know so many of the players.
I do. I think they, when I speak to them, they all, are understandably worried. And, there are amazing things that we're not going to be able to see. I mean, Scott Pass set for Virginia Woolf is an incredible environment. And it ran for like 4 previews. But I think that they also feel like they want to come back when they all feel comfortable coming back and when the audience feels comfortable coming back. It's, that the audience and the people on stage form a community. And if people are uncomfortable doing that, it impacts what's on stage. So, but hopefully things will, by the fall or winter, it'll be back in some shape or form.
Steele, do you have an experience you want to share?
I was actually listening to Stelline talk about the lack of what we're going to see, like what we won't get to see that we would have, I think that that's probably the toughest part for me. I mean, for me, living in Birmingham, Alabama, quite frankly, and quite such a shame. It's not so much theater for me, but it's the opportunity and the real need, frankly, to travel to do my job and to see architecture around the world. And I had a trip to Rome planned for the end of March. I was taking my family overseas for the first time, my little boys. And that sounds like a champagne problem. It's not the canceled trip so much as it is the lack of engagement beyond these 4 walls. I'm grateful for the 4 walls I have, and I'm grateful for my street that I live on and the community that I have here. But I depend on High Point, damn it. I do, I get relationships, ideas, I touch things, I sit on things, Milan. I mean, we really, as editors, we crave LCDQ, we get so many story ideas from going to LA. So yes. It's hard not to be in person and, those little moments that you have like over a cup of coffee or over a glass of wine that it's like a little nugget and then you run with it and then you see something and then you go back because you want to follow up. And it's like, that's what the spontaneity of that, I think, is what you can't recreate on Zoom. On the flip side, if I can like paint, it's just part of who I am to paint the, positive side of things. I will say I've had more one-on-one conversations than ever before because that's how I can stay in touch. Like David, we had a great call Tuesday afternoon. I think that's something.
You had no time for me until COVID. Yeah, I noticed my career's taken right off since everyone's house.
No, but I mean, that's how I feel is like everyone's housebound. They can probably give me 30 minutes on the phone, but that's something I want to take forward when I am back on the run and on the go more. But I don't know. I miss the in-person thing. It's hard to recreate.
Probably viewed that travel as a hardship because you have young children.
True. I mean, if I'm being this is like pulling back the curtain on Steele's personal life, but it's
that's what we want to do here.
That's why we're here.
I live in 2,000 square feet, which is probably very large for New York standards, but I've got a family of 4. They're all men. My dog is a boy. Like I'm not used to being surrounded by this much testosterone. Like, please, so here's what I'm doing to thrive. I painted my bedroom pink and now I'm painting my dining room pink. It's a second pink room makeover during COVID.
Have they noticed?
Pardon?
Have these men noticed that they're
they're on board. Pink? They're on board.
Well, they sound like gentlemen.
They're gentlemen, of course. Yes, of course.
But it's the South, and it's you, so they would be.
Well, I rambled on though. That's my
no. The more free-form and personal, the better. These answers. I think people want to, editors in chief. Women want to be you. Men desire you. It's a dream job. It's a huge sort of mythic career, and probably because another side effect of this circumstance, is that people get to have what seems like an intimate conversation with you through the computer right now, and you should tell them what in more structured circumstances just wouldn't. It's not that you might not be willing to share it, but it wouldn't come out the same way because you'd be behind a podium or something. Is that the dog?
That's the dog. Sorry.
Um,
My daughter is like sneaking in and out behind us. I can see her. So just ignore, just do not look. Yeah. I put chairs blocking this room so no one could get in. Like she had to leap over furniture to get in.
When I was watching Chris Cuomo in his basement, which was a similar camera angle to you, his wife kept coming in at the top of the stairs and putting down a tray of food when he was sick down there. And I was like, I don't know if that's such a great idea. What's she doing up there? She's going to get sick. And then she did get sick.
And she did get sick.
So crazy. I'm going to jump in though and talk about the thing I feel sad about. I'm gonna turn this into a therapy session. So I hope all of the people watching, I mean, first of all, like, let's talk about real hardship. Like the things that we get to do all day are like, we're very, very lucky to be in this industry. And I know that there are challenging moments in this industry, but there are definitely people out there who are championing. And so all of that said, obviously, I mean, I'm sad that we don't get to I don't get to meet people. You know, at the end of the day, like I'm new to this industry. I've been in this job for 1.5 years with change. You know, last year I turned our editor's letter into a roundtable discussion with designers. As many of you know, I go around the country and I get to sit with people and chat with them and hear their ideas, and they get to hear my point of view, and I get to meet them. And it's so funny, even now thinking back, I had a roundtable sort of in early March that was supposed to be in Atlanta. And admittedly, and it was fantastic, truly fantastic talent on that panel. I mean, you guys know the Atlanta community, such extraordinary designers there. And I couldn't fly. And I felt almost embarrassed telling them that I was going to have to do it remotely. And now thinking back of where we are and what has happened over the last few months, you know, I have one tomorrow within another group of extraordinary talent, and it's all via Zoom, and it'll be great. It'll be amazing, and the people are fantastic, and the Atlanta one turned out fantastic, and no one will be the wiser. But it is hard to not meet people and like see. I mean, also I'm tired of looking at my wrinkles. I need that to stop. But I'm sad to not get out there and spend time with, you know, events and all of those things. Like I'm not particularly extroverted. But I do love to connect with humans. And
do you go on your own shoots?
I don't generally. I mean, I have an amazing team of people, Robert Ruffino, who you know, and you know, amazing, great creative people, Mark Davila, and I have a really good team. So I don't need to. But this roundtable every month was a really special moment for me to sort of sit and talk and connect, and listen, and you know, not to be able to do that. I mean, I agree with Steele that, like, you know, all of these events, the LCDQs and everything, are also such a touchstone for inspiration, but also for connection. You know, it's like we are, in a lot of ways, we are our brands, and us being able to be out there and talking to people is how we sort of manifest that in just something as simple as conversation. So,
and I want to, like, something again that Stellene said about what we didn't get to see. I want to make sure that art and creation is still happening, you know, right. And a lot of what funds it and what makes it possible to happen is by the public sort of going to see it. And if I legitimately worry about that. If there aren't art gallery openings, will artists keep making art? You know, please, I mean, they will, because they have that calling or whatever, but if something can't be seen, will it be made? You know, that's like a question that actually does keep me up at night a little bit. And
if something can't be seen to then be written about, will it have the life in public consciousness?
Correct.
The culture that it deserved.
Yeah. And art is what helps us understand these moments, I think, more than anything else. It brings us, and it gives us connection and community too.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of things not being seen that should be seen, how should a designer go about getting their work published now if they can't photograph it? This is probably something everybody in the audience who's trying to be published is a decorator, and I include myself in this, you know, experience of this frustration. Do you have an answer to that question?
I mean, okay.
I should have named someone. Let's give that to Stellene, she had a first thought, sure. And you're going to have to figure this out at El Decor a lot, because you walked in at the precise moment of paralysis.
Yes. Well, listen, I think that we all have, do shoot all the time, right? So there is an inventory. But I think what also in pitching us projects now, I think that you either need to have that photographed and present it to us photographed, or you have to understand that there might be a delay we will be shooting again, at some point. I mean, there are ways we can shoot now. Is it ideal? Absolutely not. So if you present something and you really want the magazine to photograph it, with a specific photographer, I think being understanding that we will have to wait to do that. I think even in acknowledging that in your pitch is very, very helpful, because I think the other thing we're all beginning to realize is how dependent we are on each other, and how connected we all are to each other. And I think that goes, for this design community, for the publishing community, for our advertising partners, and for all of us. Even as editors in chief, the sort of sharing of problems and solutions, we have never talked more with each other. So I think that acknowledging that there is a beautiful project, there are not professional photos, but I understand it might not have, you might not be able to photograph this and, for it to appear until a winter issue. And anything that is photographed now, there is an advantage. You have an advantage, or if there's something or if you have something and you've been waiting to put it in a book, but now's a great time to share that with all of us, for sure.
I do think that like what I've noticed over the last few weeks, and I'm sure you guys have as well, that like people, the tolerance for things that feel a little bit rumpled and lived in is much, much higher than it ever was. Like there's something about, like there's a bristle to uber perfection in this moment. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel authentic, and it feels somehow disconnected from what the rest of us are going through. And I'll use the example of, in the issue that came out today, one of the designers who had pitched us an idea, or no, I'm sorry, actually she sent us a book that was coming out, and we were like, oh, this actually could be really great. And it was a home that she was spending a lot of time in after, post COVID. And she just had a buddy come over and was kind of like, you know what, can you just shoot? They were like close friends, and they were like, can you just shoot a couple things? And honestly, like the purity of the photos and the realness that it brought to the issue is so extraordinary. And so I would say that, like, I think the harsh reality that a lot of us at Hearst, I'll say on this panel, but also beyond this panel, have learned over the last few months is it doesn't take a village to do a photo shoot. In a lot of ways, we've had lots of people on these sets. I mean, we've heard anecdotal stories of some of our sister or brother magazines having like cover shoots with celebrities, and it's like the celebrity and their photographer buddy, and they get shipped a case of clothes and they put it on or whatever, and then they've got a cover shoot. Like we all are sort of learning how to sort of be nimble in this day and age. And I think that thankfully, the kinds of things that we're creating, they require some people, but they don't require a legion. And so I do think that we'll be back much sooner rather than later in creating these things. I also have to say too, like House Beautiful launched this like open house initiative on our Instagram live every day at noon, where we look at designers' homes, it's just them and a camera, and it is just them and literally a cell phone. And they're like, don't look at the laundry over here. This is, look at the living room. And like that realness also lends like connection. It lends friendliness, warmth. There's so much great stuff that you can get from that realistic approach, and I think there's some real value to that.
So my takeaway as a designer listening to this is still pitch.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Expect a more
Definitely.
forgiving
Absolutely.
attitude about homemade photography, non-professional photography, and look
Pitch.
towards the future when this is not the way it is today.
In fact, the one thing I would add, because I agree so much with what Joe and Celine both just said, but the one thing I would add is, I love being asked, hey, what are you guys looking for? What sort of issues are you thinking about? Is there a part of the country? Is there even a room? Like, I had a designer get in touch with me, and he was first of all, also flattery is helpful. He was very complimentary of a past story, which was nice. And said, what are you working on? What's going on? And then I was like, I actually need this. And he was like, well, let me look. And, anyway, we just got it. We had a great dialogue. Same point that I made earlier, like, hop on the phone, see if you can get somebody. You probably can get somebody for 20 minutes right now. You probably can get on the phone with somebody for 20 minutes and just see, living rooms, dining rooms. What are we talking here? Country house, city apartment? Like, what do you need? International? Like, I don't know. I love having those conversations. And that one conversation that I had with the designer who reached out ended up reshaping our entire September issue. We pulled something from inventory that we were planning for a later issue. We moved it forward into September. A couple things we had for September, we are going to hold now. But it worked. I'm so glad he got in touch. It really worked.
Well, and some of the things we talked about that we missed, right? The trade shows, the appointments, the showrooms, those were moments where those conversations often happened.
Absolutely.
So, I think what we're all realizing now is that there is an effort required in staying a part of the conversation. As editors-in-chief, we think about it all the time. How does Elle Decor, how does Veranda, how does House Beautiful stay a part of the conversation when we are all sort of sequestered at home and not do events? So I think the same goes for the conversations between editors and designers and decorators, and staying a part of that conversation is vital right now.
Yeah.
I think we're going to remember so many of the conversations and the relationships that we had during this time.
So true.
I think too, to that point, and even what I was saying before about, being sad not to be out there and talking, like, I'm sad to not be out there talking, but I also I'm sad that they're not talking,
right.
Those exchanges of ideas, a lot of times I would sit down in this round table and some designers would be like, I don't ever get the chance to talk to anybody but my clients, my clients and my vendors, and that's it. I never get to sit and shoot the sorry, I won't curse, my kids are around, with some other designers. And that's so important too. You hear it in the vernacular now, right? You hear people reach out to a friend, talk to a friend,
right.
check and see how they're doing. But there is that creative, the thing I do have to say though, and I just want to get this in, we are an industry of problem solvers. At our core, we are handed something that we have to fix, and we have to find a creative solution for it. And I do feel whether we're editors or we're designers or we're in the industry, but we are all creative thinkers. And I think that we are made for moments like this. We are made for the challenges. Everything that we're presented, whether it's an awkward corner or a weird pillow or a funky spread that we have to fill in a magazine, everything we do every single day is a problem and finding the right solution for it. And that's why all I feel in my heart really is just hope, for the future. Hope,
and how do you feel about what you're saying in a completely macro way? Because it's often said that the entire print magazine industry is something in need of a fix, and everyone's sort of looking at it every way they can. Do you think that the industry is going to emerge stronger or weaker after this experience?
First of all, that's my favorite question to answer. So thank you for asking it. I feel grateful every single day that I work in the home industry in print, because I do feel and some of you may have heard me say this before, interiors look no better than they do on the pages of a magazine, period, end of story. That is where they thrive. And You can show your stuff on Instagram and you can show your stuff on TikTok, which I've seen some designers like holler to the TikTokers out there because my daughter is making me crazy with it. You can show your stuff at literally anywhere else, but the place it looks best is in print. And I truly believe that this is, whether it's magazine timing, that maybe the magazine doesn't come out as often and it's thicker and it's more filled with inspiration. Like now more than ever, we need inspiration, and it truly can't look any better than it does, honestly, on the pages of magazines of the brands that you see here.
Great answer.
And I feel truly grateful for it.
And is there a more exciting day when you're stuck at in your house than when the mail comes and delivers you a magazine? Oh my God.
Yes.
Bring me some magazines.
Another great answer.
Truly.
What, my question now?
No, no pressure to give a great answer after those two.
I will tell you that what I think this will do, I mean, and across all industries really, especially the luxury industry, which I consider print magazines a luxury product, is it's going to make us rethink what lasts and what we have now that we will have in a year, what we will care about in a year. And, you know, as we're home, I know that we all have, you know, stacks of magazines that we never give away. And why is that? And what lasts is what matters. And I think that what impact it will have is you need to think of print now as offering a complete experience to your reader. If they are at home more, then when they get that magazine at home, like Steele says, they're going to sit down with it, and you need to give them almost theater within those covers, right? You need to entertain them with one story. You need to teach them with another story. You need to surprise them with another story. And you need to even think, when you open that magazine, each page can create a rhythm in a way that an Instagram feed cannot, in a way that, you know, search for a story on a website cannot. You can sort of calm them down with one page, excite them with another.
I love that.
I'm going to end us with the kind of speed dating format and ask you a question you probably won't be your favorite question to be asked. What is, you spend your lives making this exquisitely crafted content, but there's a lot of organic, spontaneous content out there on Instagram Live. What's the best one that you've seen? And what's the worst one that you've seen of these sort of upstart COVID broadcasts? And I'll put myself out there, you know, and say that my favorite thing that I've seen has been a webinar by two decorators who kind of got together and decided to share how they did their billing. You know, these are extremely successful people. It's Tim Corrigan and Vicente Wolf, serious veterans of the business with real businesses. And I sat there transfixed as they unpacked their entire fee structure for anybody who subscribed to the webinar, which is not IG Live, but, you know, a great IG Live to me would be Ashley Hicks, you know, taking us through European palaces and museums, and his book on Buckingham Palace. So those are two of my favorites. Somebody tell me one you hated.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean,
intimacy, when you hate people.
I agree that, I mean, Ashley Hicks' Instagram Lives have been, I think, sort of, for me, my favorite of this whole sort of era. They're sort of educational, they have a clear point, and I think also they are as sort of as beautifully produced as an Instagram Live possibly can be. And
you do that.
Sorry, I still don't know how he does that. I thought you were going to find out.
I'm waving that camera around and people are typing in.
And having the, like, he becomes this small little thing, and then these gorgeous visuals appear. My pet peeve on Instagram Live, and I was the person who did it probably the worst, is the initial moments where you can't, the person who's supposed to enter doesn't enter. And I'm so bad at that for 10 minutes.
Everyone on this call has gone through that. Every single person.
But at this point,
Hello, Marion, come in.
Waiting to add,
Marion.
trying to add.
You know, at the beginning it was okay. At this point, it's not. So that's my pet peeve, but I was guilty of it for about 10 minutes one time. So.
I'm like getting tired. I don't know. I'm definitely gonna get myself into trouble. But like I also like I've been watching a lot of television because I mean I'm just home doing things. I'm like doing nothing all day. I mean I'm working, but
not true, by the way.
That's not true. That's 100% not true. But I'm also like around the TV in a way that I never have been before. And the other day I think I think my brain exploded and I gave up and I was like, I'm just putting on like cable. So I'm not naming actual network names, but I think everybody can get where I'm going here, where I just was like, they were trying to make and like basically like an Instagram live kind of happen on a real show. And I just was like, come on, like I don't know. There's something. All right, fine, I'll say it. It's a cooking show that's going to be starring. Oh my God, who is that? Amy Schumer. I mean, God bless her heart. I like love Amy Schumer, but Amy Schumer is like shooting a food show in her kitchen, and I'm like, I want to love it, but I'm also just like, I don't know. Is everybody now? Right. Is everyone now an expert? Like everybody thinks.
Everyone,
and I know everybody thinks they can be a content producer. You know, and they would give them a camera and a whatever, and they can do it. And I just feel like I don't know. I get frustrated when I see that, where it's like, you know, content is not easy. And I think it like, and that's something that this audience, I feel like in particular needs to hear, because I think that a lot of brands, I think a lot of designers, you know, just want to like pick up the microphone and go. And I by all means bless that. But I think content takes, you have to pay attention to audience and think about what's on the receiving end of that.
Especially at this point, you know, at the beginning of this crisis, I think basically anything went, right? At this point, you need to think, what am I saying? Why am I saying it? And how am I going to produce it that is best for this medium?
Exactly.
What sort of can happen on Instagram Live is very different than what should be happening on, you know, television. Right. Or what should be happening on a website or in a print magazine. And now we're at the point in this crisis where we have had enough time, the same way we differentiate our brands, right? And are always thinking, what's Elle Decor, what's Veranda, what's House Beautiful. Now's the time to also think, okay, like, do I need to be doing this Instagram Live right now? Do I need to be, you know, posting this right now? Or should I, you know, sort of refine it a little bit more? Because trust is also going to emerge from this as one of the key factors in all communication between client and decorator, between reader and editor, and between all of us, and who you trust. And if we need to sort of keep earning that trust and maintaining that trust, because that in uncertain times, and we're going to live in uncertain times for a while, is key in everything.
And utility. I love that, David, the one you mentioned, there was such utility in that. I mean, you got something so useful out of that. I think that goes back to trust. You know, can I trust this person to deliver something to me that's actually useful?
But it also comes back to point of view too. Like what's so amazing about it is you're getting something there that you can't get anywhere else.
Right.
Like that's the thing.
And wouldn't have gotten in other circumstances. I mean, you know, I've never heard of anybody sharing that information. No. Even at a cocktail party when you know them, you know, that's closely guarded usually.
Right.
So I got the 5-minute wave a few minutes ago. I want to say how grateful I am that you made it possible to do this so that I could say thank you for the employment over the years, getting to contribute to Veranda, House Beautiful, and Town and Country and Elle Decor. But also to say how much I'm looking forward to seeing all of your September issues, because the way you've talked about your reactions to this has made me more curious, encouraged and curious than I thought I would be about how that's going to manifest itself in print. I think you are people with great careers, but I think that's not going far enough. I would say that you're an important part of the culture of our country, and I want to thank you for sharing yourselves today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Truly.
Cheers, David.
Great
Thank
to
you.
see everybody.
Thank
Next
you,
year in
David.
LA.
And now, because it's Zoom, we all go, bye.
No, we go.
Bye.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye.